the markets, and for that we welcome in Shana Sissel, founder and president at Banríon Capital Management. Good to see you. Thanks for being on. So, I think it's interesting how we had 3 of the last 4 months higher for, for stocks overall. And so while we were so worried about so many things, at the same time, why does it feel so much better? I feel like we're getting tricked. I'm not sure. You tell us.
I think the economic signals have just been more positive than people expected. A lot of people really felt that an aggressive Fed cycle, and I'm one of those people, would push for greater softness in the economy. And while we have seen some softness, the one thing that hasn't really shown any signs of weakness is the employment market. And it's really hard to have any sort of a recession when you have a lot of strength in the employment market. So I think that's really the key here. The consumer has been somewhat resilient, although we did see some softness in December, and there is some reason to be concerned there, and I continue to be concerned for the consumer. But a strong job market is the thing that I think is really keeping the economy stable and keeping us out of a recession.
I see. So at this point now, you think the Fed is likely? I've heard so many different scenarios of what the Fed may do. I mean, I think most people think 25 basis points on the 1st of February. I mean, there are some who are even in the 50 camp. What say you?
So I'm usually pretty good at predicting what the Fed's going to do, but I can honestly say this time around I'm a little perplexed. We've had some conflicting responses from Fed governors. Some are quite hawkish and some are getting more dovish. I think Chairman Powell has really talked about how he wants to continue to be aggressive. Inflation continues to be well above their 2% target, and the job market isn't showing any signs of weakness, which I think is concerning to the Fed because that is one of the areas they would like to see kind of come back a little bit, because you don't want a super tight job market. That's not great for wage inflation. So I'm perplexed myself. I think that a lot of people, including myself, are going to be paying very close attention on Wednesday to what they do, whether it be 25 basis points or 50. I think the market would be very happy if it's 25 basis points. It would suggest that the Fed sees some softening in the economy, and they really are hoping to get a soft landing, and they're comfortable with where things are. If they go 50 basis points, this tells me that they are willing to sacrifice the economy and go into a recession in an effort to bring inflation back to the 2% target and to get a little more slack in the job market.
Let's get to some of the things that you like here. So in an economy where things maybe are a little better than we expected in a Fed, let's see if they cooperate or not. But that being said, you do have some tech stocks on your radar, some of which are reporting. What names do you like here?
So there's a couple of tech names that I've always had on my radar screen, and it really comes down to fundamentals on whether or not I hold them at any given time. And those are names like some of the semis, like Marvell Technologies, which is a name that I really like in terms of like a network company spending more time upgrading their overall networks. NVIDIA, of course, is always a fan favorite, and I am no exception there. I really like Apple as well. So there's some names in tech that I would be a buyer on weakness. And so those are some names I'm watching. As you know, Apple is reporting this week. If it gets back under 130-ish, I might take a second look again. But, right now it's had some momentum. So we'll see. But those are names I really like right now. And as they get, weaker, if they sell off at all, those are names I would be a buyer of.
Right. So just to be clear here, you're looking for pullbacks. So you wouldn't necessarily buy Marvell, Apple, or NVIDIA today.
Correct. I think I'd like to see they had some weakness towards the end of last year, and I was a buyer at that time. They've rebounded quite a bit year to date. And so at this point, I'm kind of looking for a better entry point, but I think they're good names. I think I'll get that better entry point. I don't expect these are stocks that are going to take off next week. There's going to be volatility in the market. I'm very curious to hear what their forward guidance is, because I think that will tell me a lot about what their business will be like through the rest of the year. And so that's kind of what I'm paying attention to right now.
Got it. And then what about Leidos and JetBlue?
So Leidos, of course, is one of my favorites. It's a mid-cap name. It's a name not a lot of people are talking about. It actually did quite well in 2022 as one of the exceptions. It is a government contractor, very focused on technology solutions, cybersecurity. Everybody who goes through the airport will see the Leidos brand name on as they go through security. And so this is a name that has a growing and very profitable health business. So I really like that name, as we will continue to see increasing demand for the types of solutions that they offer. JetBlue is a little controversial. Obviously, airlines are not necessarily everybody's favorite industry, and JetBlue is not necessarily everybody's favorite airline when it comes to the space. But I think it's really interesting. It had a very good earnings report last week. It's trading at about 15 times forward earnings. I personally have always been a fan of JetBlue. I think their customer service is excellent. When I used to live in Boston, it was the only airline I would fly because I think they really do have a differentiated business model when it comes to the customer experience. But interestingly enough, where it's currently trading isn't that far off where its IPO price was in 2002. And for that reason, I think, the bet here is that it isn't going to go out of business because it's trading like it is. I don't think that's going to be the case, and so I think there's upside in this stock.
Yeah, and a quick thought on the ETF that you've been adding to the portfolio, MRSK. Tell me about that one, Shana.
So as many people who know me and who have watched me before know, I'm a big fan of using alternatives to help risk manage my portfolios. And so this is in addition to my alternative allocation. The reason I am starting to use this particular ETF is because it's adding a little bit of equity beta into my portfolio, but in a risk managed and a hedged way. I do think there's some upside in the market, but I do expect some volatility. So a name like this allows me to participate if the market does move upwards, but it offers me some downside protection should there be volatility along the way.
Shana Sissel, wonderful to see you on this Monday. Thank you. A good setup for this week, a busy one that it will be. Founder and president at Banríon Capital Management. Thank you.
Thank you.
Plenty more to come right here.